Check this out, BCM here, bringing you another Commander deck tech. Today, we have Kalamax, the Stormsire. We're in the Tamir colors, and our primary focus is all instant Spellslingers, and everything that's going to trigger with that, such as just dealing damage, drawing cards, just basically taking over the entire game, just with instants. With Kalamax, the Stormsire, whenever we cast our first instant spell every single turn, if Kalamax happens to be tapped, we get to copy that spell. And we get to choose new targets for that copy. And has the static ability, whenever we copy an instant spell, we get to put a +1 counter on Kalamax. So we're going to cast a whole bunch of instant spells, we're going to copy them, and we're going to make Kalamax very, very large. That way we can deal commander damage and defeat our opponents almost in one shot. So let's get right into it. First up, all the instants. So we have Brainstorm, 1 blue mana, we get to draw 3 cards, then put 2 from our hand back on top of our library in any order. Now we have Mystical Tutor, that way we can go get whatever instant we want. Now we have Growth Spiral, we get to draw a card, and then we can put a land from our hand on the battlefield. Now we have Joint Exploration. This is Kicker, so it has an additional cost. We get to scry 2, then draw a card, but if Joint Exploration was kicked, then we can put a land from our hand onto the battlefield. Now we have Harrow. As an additional cost to playing this, we do have to sacrifice a land, but we can search for up to 2 basics and put them onto the battlefield. Now we have Hunter's Insight. We're going to choose a creature that we control, and whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or Planeswalker that turn, we get to draw that many cards. Now we have Big Score. As an additional cost, we do have to discard a card, but we get to draw 2 cards and create 2 treasures. Now we have Unexpected Windfall. As an additional cost, we do have to discard. We're going to draw 2 cards and create 2 treasures. Now we have good old Frantic Search. We get to draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, then untap 3 lands. Now we have good old Dig Through Time. This has Delve, so we can exile cards from our graveyard to reduce this cost, because it does cost 8 mana total, but when we do, we get to look at the top 7 cards of our library and get to put 2 of those cards into our hand. Now we have some counter spells, so we have Counterspell, we have Arcane Denial. Now we have a modal one. We have Mystic Confluence. We can choose different modes more than one time. We can either counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. We can return a creature back to its owner's hand, or we can draw a card. Of course, we have the iconic Lightning Bolt. 1 red mana, deal 3 damage to any target. Now we have Nature's Claim. For 1 green mana, we can destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller will gain 4 life, but that's not going to matter too much. Now we have some removal spells. So we have Pongify. We get to destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated, and its controller will put a 3/3 green ape token on the battlefield. Now we have Reality Shift. This will exile a target creature, and its controller will manifest the top card of their library. Now we have Artifact Mutation. We're going to destroy target artifact. It can't be regenerated, and we're going to create X/1/1 green saplings, where X is that artifact's converted mana cost. Now we have Beast Within. We're going to destroy target permanent, and its controller will create a 3/3 green beast token. Now we have Chaos Warp. That way we can deal with a very problematic permanent that our opponent might have, or we can kind of gamble with our own stuff to see if we can hit something better. Of course, we have Cyclonic Rift. We're going to bounce a non-land permanent, and if you paid its overload cost, we're going to bounce everything. Now we have Commit/Memory. If we cast the Commit side, we're going to put target spell or non-land permanent 3rd from the top. If we cast Memory, we can cast this from our graveyard. Each player is going to shuffle their hand and graveyard back into their library and draw 7 cards. Now we have Soul's Fire. Target creature we control will deal damage equal to its power to target creature or player. Now we have Price of Progress. This is going to punish our opponents for not playing basic lands. They're going to take 2 damage for each non-basic land they control. Now, to protect our stuff, we have Heroic Intervention. Permanents and us will gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. Now we have some spells that are going to help copy all these spells. So we have Galvanic Iteration. Whenever we cast our next instant or sorcery that turn, we get to copy that spell. We do get to choose new targets. This also has Flashback. We can cast Galvanic Iteration from our graveyard again. Now we have Twinferno. We get to choose one of these. Either target creature we control gains double strike. We're going to use this if Kalamax is a very high powered creature. That way we can deal commander damage and end the game. Or whenever we cast our next instant and sorcery, we get to copy that. Now we have Increasing Vengeance. We get to copy target instant or sorcery, and if it was cast from our graveyard, we get to copy that spell twice. Now we have Repeated Reverberation. When we cast our next instant or sorcery, or activate a loyalty, we get to copy that spell or ability twice. Now we got a fun one. We have Fury Storm. When we cast this spell, we get to copy it for each time we casted our commander from the command zone. But we're going to copy target instant or sorcery, and we get to choose new targets. So Fury Storm is going to pay us off for as many times as we had to recast Kalamax. So every single time we cast Kalamax, it's going to get that much worse for our opponents. Of course, we have Nexus of Fate. We get to take another turn after this one, and Nexus of Fate will shuffle back in. Now we have some very big X spells. So we have Comet Storm. This is multi-kicker apart from being an X spell. So if we have a lot of mana lying around, we're just going to dump as much mana into Comet Storm as possible. We're going to choose target creature or player. We're going to deal X damage to each of those targets for as many times as it was kicked. Now we have Expansion Explosion. The explosion side will deal X damage to any target, and target player will draw X cards. Or if we cast Expansion, we get to copy target instant or sorcery with mana cost 4 or less, and we can choose new targets. We do have 2 Planeswalkers that are going to help us out. So we have Ral Storm Conduit. This is going to enter with 4 loyalty counters on it. It has a static ability. Whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery, we can deal damage to target opponent or Planeswalker. We're going to +2 him to scry 1. That way we can ensure the spell on top of our library is going to be the right one for that moment. Or -2, the next time we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to copy that spell. Okay, now we have Chandra, Hope's Beacon. This is going to enter with 5 loyalty counters on it and has a static ability. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to copy that spell. This only triggers once per turn. And we're going to +2 her. We get to add 2 mana of any combination of colors. That way we can use it for very big spells. Or we can +1 her. We get to exile the top 5 cards of our library. And until end of turn, we can cast instant and sorceries from among the exile cards. And then -X, depending on how many loyalty counters we decide to remove off Chandra, we can deal X damage to up to 2 different targets. Okay, let's get into the creatures. All these creatures are going to help us by either copying spells or just dealing damage in general. So first up, we have the Reality Chip. This is an 0/4 artifact that has a static ability. We get to look at the top card of our library at any time. And if the Reality Chip happens to be attached to a creature, we can play lands and cast spells from the top of our library. Now we have Firebrand Archer. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we get to deal 1 damage to each opponent. Now we have good old Gutter Sight. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to deal 2 damage to each opponent. Now we have Glade Muse. Whenever any player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, that player draws a card. Now we have Dual Caster Mage. This has Flash, and when it enters the battlefield, we get to copy target instant or sorcery. Now we have Veyran, Voice of Duality. This is Magecraft, so whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery, he'll get +1/+1 until the end of turn. But he has a static ability. Whenever we cast or copy a instant spell, if that causes a triggered ability of a permanent to trigger, that permanent will trigger a additional time. Now we have Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. That's a crazy name. This has 2 different static abilities. At the beginning of our upkeep, we can return an instant or sorcery from our graveyard at random back to our hand. And whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, it'll deal 1 damage to each opponent. Now we have Stormkiln Artist. He's going to get +1/+0 for each artifact we control. We're not running very many artifacts, but whenever we cast all these instants, we're going to trigger Magecraft. So whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery, we're going to create a treasure token. Now we have Archmage of Runes. This guy is very good. He's going to be a cost reduction for all our instant and sorcery spells by making them cost 1 colorless less to cast. And whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to draw a card. Now we have Pink Horror. This has a static ability. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to deal 2 damage to any target, and has a alternate ability called Split. When Pink Horror is put into a graveyard, we get to create 2/2/2 blue and red demons that have that static ability as well. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to deal 1 damage to any target. Now we have good old Niv Mizzet Parun. He can't be countered. He's a 5/5 legendary dragon wizard with flying. Whenever we draw a card, we get to deal 1 damage to any target. And whenever any player casts an instant or sorcery, we get to draw a card. Okay, let's get into the enchantments. Of course, we have Sorcerer class. These classes are very good because they're not like sagas. All we have to do is pay mana to move to a different level, and we get the effects of each level. So the very first level, when Sorcerer class enters the battlefield, we get to draw 2 cards, then discard 2. The discarding isn't going to affect us too much because most of the spells that we're playing have flashback or gives us the ability to cast these spells from our graveyard. But if we pay a blue and a red and go to level 2, it's going to give the static ability to all our creatures to tap for blue or red mana that we can only use on casting instant or sorceries. But if we get to level 3 by paying 3 colorless, a blue, and a red, whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to deal damage equal to the number of instant and sorceries we cast that turn. Now we have Fiery Inscription. When this enters the battlefield, the ring is going to tempt us. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, it'll deal 2 damage to each opponent. Now we have Jace's Sanctum. This is going to reduce our mana cost of instants and sorceries we cast, but whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to scry. Now we have Wilderness Reclamation. This is going to ensure that all our lands are untapped. That way we can always have mana up. Now we have Precognition Field. We can look at the top card of our library at any time, and we may cast the top card of our library if it's an instant or sorcery. We can pay 3 colorless to exile the top card of our library. This is going to ensure that our top card will always be a spell. Now we have good old Double Vision. Whenever we cast our first instant or sorcery that turn, we get to copy it. Now we have Shark Typhoon. Anytime we cast a non-creature spell, we're going to create a XX blue shark token where X is that spell's mana cost. We can also cycle this if we really need to. Okay, let's get into the artifacts. We have our Soul Ring, our Arcane Signet, we have Relic of Legends. This is going to provide almost a additional mana just by tapping a untapped legendary creature. Now we have Springleaf Drum. We can tap an untapped creature to make any mana of any color. This is going to turn all our creatures into mana dorks. Of course, we have Chromatic Lantern. This is going to ensure that our lands tap for every single color that we need. Now we have Sensei's Divining Top. This is going to make sure our top card is always what we want it to be. Just by paying one, we get to look at the top 3 cards and put them back in any order. And if it's a card we really need to draw, we can just activate Sensei's Top, draw that card, and then Sensei's Divining Top will go back on top of our library. Now to protect Kalamax or Niv-Mizzet, we have Lightning Greaves. We also have Swiftfoot Boots. The only difference is Lightning Greaves gives the creature Shroud, which means it can't be targeted at all. And Hexproof, your opponents can't target it. Now we have Leyline Dowser. We're going to pay a colorless, then mill a card. Then we can put an instant and sorcery that was milled this way into our hand. This is going to help us by keeping our hand full of instants. But we can tap an untapped legendary creature to untap Leyline Dowser. Now we have Twinning Staff. Pretty much anytime we copy a spell, we get to copy that spell an additional time. Or we can pay 7 mana, activate this, and then we can copy a instant or sorcery. Now we have Smuggler's Copter. This is really going to help us out by getting to the instants that we really need. And it's a pretty good blocker as well, because it won't be a creature until it's crewed, but it will have flying. Okay, let's get into the land base. This is a very simple, straightforward land base. So we have our command tower, our Ketria Triome, Frontier Bivouac. That way we can ensure we get all 3 colors. We have Breeding Pool, Stomping Grounds, and Steam Vents. Now we have Exotic Orchard. That way we can add a mana that our opponent controls, which is most likely blue, green, or red. We have Survivor Encampment. We get to tap an untapped creature to add 1 mana of any color. Now we have our check lands with Rootbound Crag. This one is super shiny. We have Sulphur Falls and Hinterland Harbor. Now we got some Scry lands. So we have Temple of Epiphany, Abandon, and Mystery. Now we have a couple basic fetch lands. So we have Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. We're going to really capitalize on running basics in this deck because we're playing Price of Progress. So our opponents should be taking way more damage than we will. Now we have Rogue's Passage. This is going to make sure that any creature that has a ability whenever it deals combat damage, this is going to ensure that creature actually gets through and can trigger that ability. Now we have Study Hall. We're going to add a mana for each time our commander has been cast. Now, to make our commander or a large creature even bigger, we have Kessig Wolfrun. So if we have a lot of mana lying around, we're just going to dump it into Kessig Wolfrun. That creature will get +X/+O and trample. We have 4 forests, 6 mountains, and 6 islands. And that was the Commander deck tech for Kalamax, the Stormsire. I really hope you guys enjoyed this Tamir Spellslinger deck. This deck is really fun to play and play against. I've lost to this deck many times because it's too much value too quickly. But if you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.